Hi, I'm retired NYPD Detective Vic Ferrari, and welcome to NYPD Through the Looking Glass podcast, where you get unique insight into the New York City Police Department. Before we get started, I encourage you to check out my Amazon author page, where you'll find my series of behind-the-scenes NYPD books. They're $10 paperback or $2.99 ebook download, including my latest NYPD Presumption and Dysfunction. Tomorrow, I'm going to be interviewing former Gambino crime family hijacker Lou Ferrante. He's got a great new book out. I encourage you to check it out. It's called Borgata, Clash of the Titans, A History of the American Mafia. I'll be interviewing him tomorrow, which is Wednesday, so I'll probably have the episode up Thursday or Friday. So I just figured I'd do the news, and I got a story I'd like to tell you guys. Before I get rolling, this is funny. People contact me all the time on here with suggestions, and I appreciate it. Maybe you should interview this guy. Maybe you should interview that guy. And I try. I mean, when I have a guest on the show, it makes my life easier. I don't got to dig up newspaper articles and think of something creative to say. I'm much more interested in talking to these people. But unfortunately, in law enforcement, a lot of people aren't forthcoming for whatever reason, unless they have something they're looking to push, a book, a special, a podcast. So anyway, the other day somebody reaches out to me on social media, and I'm going to save them from themselves because I'm not going to mention their name or their email address. But anyway, they say, I noticed I'm watching your podcast, and I noticed you don't have any Spanish or Latin guests. So I type back, well, keep looking. So then they got back to me again and said, well, I only seen one, and I think your show should be more diverse and all this crap. And I'm saying to myself, if you listen to the podcast, what do I say at the end of any episode? If you worked in law enforcement or have an interesting criminal background, please reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram at VicFerrari50. I'll talk to anyone if they're interesting. Listen, if there was a cop from Nigeria and I thought he had a fascinating story, he'd be on here tomorrow. Like I said, people in law enforcement, for whatever reason, are reluctant to talk. But I have had former guy I worked with, retired NYPD Detective Noel Garcia. I've had Miami Homicide Squad Commander Lieutenant Raul Diaz on the show. I've had Ramesh Nyberg on the show. He's of Indian descent. I mean, what is this, the UN? If I got a guest and they're good, I'll put them on. But no one's coming to me. I got to, literally 90% of the guests I have, they don't reach out to me. I got to go finding them and go back and forth with emails. I had a guy on the hook. He's got a book out. He's in law enforcement, had a fascinating story. He sent me a copy of his book. I took better part of a week reading it, writing out outlines, writing out questions. And then the day we were supposed to go live, because I don't feel comfortable doing the interview. So that was a week lost. I mean, his book was good, but, what are you going to do? So anyway, let's get to the true crime section of the New York Post. I got a pretty interesting story with this. First off, a Nassau County police detective allegedly moonlighting for the Bonanno crime family held at least one phony raid on a rival gambling operation run by the Genovese crime family. Ex-cop Hector Rosario was accused of targeting and breaking equipment. Ex-cop Hector Rosario was accused of targeting and breaking equipment in Salvatore Sally the Shoemaker Rubino's backdoor casino inside his Long Island store, Sal's Shoe Repair. The Merrick business served as a front for poker games 3 times a week and computerized gambling machines. Rosario, who was first busted in 2022 and released on $500,000 bond, was allegedly put on the payroll by 2 members of the Bonanno family to target Rubino's betting parlor between 2013 and 2014. You want to talk about starting a mob war, sending the cops in there to screw around. The former cop apparently also took his side hustle to heart. One witness said he saw Rosario break one of the gambling machines and shook down the location to find money. Money man Joseph Joey Box Ritagliano, who also pled guilty in the spring. Boy, you want to talk about a guy who's got problems? With that high of a bail, he seems like he's going to go to jail for a bunch of things. A mystery illness is keeping Mayor Eric Adams uncharacteristically off the public stage as a tough primary campaign looms and rumors that swirl he could face new criminal charges. Few details were known about Adams' ailment beyond a brief statement from his mouthpiece Fabian Levy, released late Sunday, that His Honor hasn't been feeling his best over the last few days and will have limited public schedule this week as he stops by the doctor's office for a battery of routine medical tests. Specifics and symptoms were unclear Monday, but a source close to the mayor said he recently had trouble moving around. Well, federal indictments tend to do that to you. But in all seriously, I hope he, doesn't have anything wrong with him. But what I find funny is, remember when this guy first got sworn into office and they were asking him questions at the podium and he gave everybody a lecture how fit he is because he lives on a plant-based diet and we should all be on a plant-based diet. Listen, I don't care what anybody eats or drinks. You want to drink 20 ounces of soda? Be my guest. You want to eat French fries? I don't care. But when you start preaching to people what they should and shouldn't be eating and limiting how much they can have, then I got a problem with it. So His Honor's got some issues. Sorry to hear that. A Florida elementary school principal who once earned Teacher of the Year honors was arrested Friday after a raucous house party where around 100 teenagers allegedly downed booze was held inside her home, according to authorities. Roosevelt Elementary School principal Elizabeth Hill Brogdon, 3 names, and another teacher, Carly Anderson, who works at the same school, were both charged days after the wild bash on January 19, according to the Cocoa Beach police. Hey, isn't that where I Dream of Jeannie was from? At least some of the young partiers were drinking alcohol they got from coolers inside the home, and one youngster even suffered a medical emergency tied to the drinking. Boy, where were these teachers around when I was in high school? You can't do this. I mean, not that you should do this, but you can't do this anymore with video cameras and cell phones and stuff. What are these 2 chicks thinking? When I went to high school, there was a teacher in my high school that owned a bar several blocks from the high school. And he would not let anybody into the bar until you were in senior year. Now, back then, the drinking age was 18, then they moved it up to 19, then it was 21. So I was kind of chasing it. And he wouldn't let you in. But I remember in senior year, you could go in there and have a beer or 2. And if he saw you getting unruly or unrowdy, he'd kick your ass out. Not saying it's right, but that's the way it was. A pair of Mount Vernon men caught a break after getting nabbed on a serious gun charge in the Bronx, getting referred to a gun diversion program instead of facing serious time behind bars. But now they're locked up on a murder charge in a vicious execution-style shooting. You think? According to records, one was behind the wheel of a white 2003 Volkswagen with dark tinted windows and New Jersey plates when cops spotted the car in the Concourse Village. By the way, that's directly across the street from the Bronx Criminal Court. You can't make this up. In plain view of the car was an illegal .22 caliber Beretta handgun with a 13-round magazine and a black 9mm pistol with a 22-round magazine, a complaint said. O'Neill and Mohammed and a third man, Amari Staggers, were hit with illegal gun charges by cops. But once in court, the cases bounced around for months before Mohammed and O'Neill were both offered spots in jail alternative programs designed for suspects caught with illegal weapons in an attempt to get them on the straight and narrow and dodge prison time. On January 6th, the 2 were part of a crew that allegedly ambushed David Smith in the city of New Rochelle, which is like 15 minutes north of the Bronx, and shot him dead, firing 6 shots into the victim as he lay wounded on the ground, according to a criminal complaint by prosecutors. So here we go again. They're letting guys out on a gun charge. So let me just explain to you that the way it was when I was on the job. If you have no criminal record and you get caught with an illegal handgun, they don't want to hear it. You are taking a felony conviction. If you get grabbed again with a gun, you're going away 1.5 to 3 years, no 2 ways about it. Now, these guys seem to have unlimited access to guns because they took 2 guns off them. Now they show up. So apparently this gun diversion program didn't work. So now they kill a guy up in New Rochelle, and they have more handguns. So I'm going to guess, where's the money coming from? These guns going for top dollar, right? So they're probably in the drug game. And they're drug dealers or they're ripping off drug dealers, but they have access to guns. And the Bronx DA, the bottom line is the Bronx DA's office dropped the ball on this. We're playing footsie with these guys and bit them in the ass. And now these guys just killed a guy up in Westchester County. So now we're going to get to the story. Now, I covered this a couple of months ago about the New York State trooper that was allegedly, first the story came out, he was allegedly shot doing a car stop out in Long Island. Then a couple of months later, a story broke that the state police weren't buying the story. There was holes in his story, and that They did a search warrant on his place or his parents' house that he lived, and they were looking into it. So now more has come. The New York State trooper who allegedly lied about getting shot during a Long Island traffic stop may have been looking for sympathy or even to win the attention of an unrequited love, officials said. Thomas Massia, 27 years old, was arraigned alongside his parents Monday in Hempstead as new details were revealed in the bizarre scheme, including that he sprinkled shell casings on the Southern State Parkway, then fired at his own leg on October 30th. Massia resigned from his post as a New York State trooper effective January 24th, officials said. He turned himself into the state police barracks in East Farmingdale early Monday while his parents turned themselves in on separate firearms charges. The now former cop is facing up to 3 years in prison on charges including tampering with evidence, falsifying a report, an incident, and official misconduct. Assistant Nassau County District Attorney Jared Rosenblatt said at his arraignment in district court that Massia dropped a handful of .22 caliber shell casings on the parkway and drove home and dropped off the gun. He allegedly drove back to the parkway and called for backup. Massia's false claims provided a massive police manhunt with authorities searching for a Dodge Charger with New Jersey plates that only existed as a figment of imagination, Rosenblatt said. Police noted that Massia's body cam did not actually deploy right away during the incident, and when it did, it looked like it was being covered up, she said. Massia's father, former NYPD police officer Thomas Massia Sr., and his mother Dorothy Massia were charged with criminal possession of a firearm. The firearm charges against the parents are separate from the ones against the son, with the firearm in question being criminal due to illegal characteristics and because Massia Sr. is a convicted felon. Well, illegal characteristics means it was either a straw purchase or, lying on the ATF form, or it's defaced. But if it was defaced, they would have said that. Authorities also located the .22 caliber gun Massia Jr. used to shoot himself at his parents' home. Oh boy, is he screwed. It is believed that Massia Sr. is a former partner of NYPD police officer Michael Dowd, one of the most corrupt police officers in Big Apple history, multiple sources said. The pair were both busted in the 1990s for running a cocaine ring linking Brooklyn to Suffolk County, multiple police sources said. All three Massias were released on their own recognizance Monday and due back in court on February 5th. So where do I even begin with this? I dug into the backgrounds of these people. So the father, Thomas Massia, was a Brooklyn cop. From newspaper articles, he was involved. Him and several other cops were involved in locking a guy up. The guy fought with them. The guy died. They were arrested for the man's death. They took it to court, and they were cleared. Okay, so he was cleared of that. But then somehow, some way, he gets involved with Michael Dowd, and be it they're ripping off drug dealers, somehow cocaine in Brooklyn is going out to a network in Suffolk County. This is in the early 90s. Him and Dowd are running it with other guys, and they all get caught, and Thomas Massia Sr. is fired from the NYPD. But there's so much more to this story. So the mother, as far as I can tell, was a New York City police officer, and according to a July 22nd, 1992 Newsday article, his mother Dorothy, a 9-4 precinct cop, was fired from the NYPD for her association with Thomas Sr. So the NYPD, she's on probation probably, and what happened was they're like, well, this guy just got fired, and you're going to marry him, and you're on probation, and they looked for a way to fire her. But it's more crazier than that, because then I found another newspaper article, according to a May 15, 1992 Newsday article. This kid's aunt, I'm not going to say her name, was also an NYPD cop. She's a transit cop, and she was fired for testing positive for cocaine. So, I mean, Thomas Massia Jr., he's in his late 20s, old enough to know better, old enough to know right from wrong. Why he did this, I don't know. Maybe he was looking for a tax-free disability pension. They're saying that there's something with a girlfriend that maybe broke up with him, and he's doing this to I don't know, gain her back. But I mean, even if he was even talking about this, I mean, his father, mother, and aunt have all gotten in trouble as cops, should have steered him away from this. But apparently, the way it looks, they knew about it or even possibly covered it up. Um, you know, if you grow up in that environment and you're taking shortcuts all the time, I'm wondering, was it that far of a reach to do something like this? But I mean, this guy's got problems. They're not going away. What I found unusual is the father. He was arrested with Dowd and everything, and I know Dowd went away. Dowd did a lot of time, so I mean, guys are hating on Dowd, and yeah, he was a dirtbag. There's no two ways about it, but he did his time. This guy, as far as I can see, I couldn't find out if he served time in New York State Department of Corrections or federal. So I don't know. Maybe the case about him was weak and it got dropped, or maybe he was cleared. I don't know. But they're saying he's a convicted felon, which means he shouldn't be in possession of a firearm. So it's sad for the family, but they put themselves in play with this. So, they got to deal with the consequences. Do I think that the son who allegedly shot himself in the leg and put on this whole farce, is he going to go to jail? I don't know. It could go either way. They could just, you're off the job and you're not getting your pension and you're going to be a convicted felon, or they could press for jail time. The most I think he would do is 1.5 to 3 if it's Long Island, so there is a chance. It's not like, the circus in the Bronx or Brooklyn, so there is a chance of him going away. So anyway, and then again, I'll have former Gambino hijacker and now author Lou Ferrante on in the next couple of days. He's got a great story to tell, and I love that book. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, especially my listeners in South Salem, New York, Ocean City, New Jersey, Middlebury, Indiana, Southold, New York, Blauvelt, New York, and Middle Sackville, Nova Scotia. If you work in law enforcement or have an interesting criminal background, please drop me a note on Twitter or Instagram @VicFerrari50. I'd love to talk to you, no matter what you look like. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like or subscribe button. I appreciate it. And if you enjoy the content, check out my Amazon author page. Just type in my name, Vic, Ferrari like the car, where you can preview all my NYPD books for free. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care.